Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me, and I'm back with a brand new What If. Actually, if you really deep dive and you find a video that's actually not on this channel and it's on a different channel, this technically is not a brand new What If. But for this channel specifically, it is definitely a brand new What If. I started this What If, which I'll be redoing, so don't worry about that. There's no reason to go back to any other old What If. But I started this What If on a different channel, but now we are here with a brand new thumbnail, which is from my boy Crown Fiend, so shout out to him. And we're here with part 1 of What If Deku Was Wolverine. And if you enjoy, make sure to leave a like, make sure to leave a sub, make sure to leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And I'm not going to waste much more of your time, and let's get into part 1 of What If Deku Was Wolverine. Let's get it. Izuku Midoriya was born differently. Born a different type of person. When he was born in a lab that was interested in the study of quarks. But when he was born and they saw that he was quarkless, a problem definitely allied. But in a way, a solution was right in front of them. They had somebody that was quarkless, that did not have the gene to get a quark or have a quark. Now they could use that, maybe use that to actually gift this person something stronger than a quark. In the military, they've been experimenting with serums and various other techniques to make a stronger super soldier. They've done this in the past a long time ago, but that project erupted in flames. Something occurred and it basically went down, well, like I said, in flames. But luckily, they have something else in mind. They want to make a soldier that is the weapon, that they are the weapon alone, built within the body of, well, that person could be a lethal amount of strength and a lethal amount of, well, hostility. There might be a way to make this kid into a super soldier. So that's what they begin to try. The mother of this child would be pulled away from him in a matter of seconds. She would be subdued and put away, and, well, let's just say there's a good chance she was killed. Fighting for her little boy to be normal, well, they ran out of options and had to put her down. Of course, Izuku would have no idea what's going on at all. Izuku would be lost in what's happening. He only knew the superhuman training. That's all he remembered, and that's all he would know. But soon, he would forget so much so quickly. At the age of only 5, they began injecting him with this serum. A serum that would embed itself very similar to a quark. It would not stunt the growth of Izuku, and it would only be a positive in the future. Or at least that's what everyone believed. They were making him into a super soldier, into something that could be put on the front lines in front of any hero or villain. That's the problem, right? They don't know if they truly have control over all these heroes. Because what happens if All Might goes rogue? What happens when the strongest heroes on the planet go rogue? What do? What can they do? They begin to experiment more on Izuku Midoriya, changing his genetics so much so that it began to change to the point that he would have extreme amounts of a healing factor. On top of that, superhuman strength, and they began to embed him with his own weapon, claws that were these blades within his own skin that could be pushed out and retracted back within his own arms and healed right back up because of his healing factor. They began to test multiple amounts of metals, many of them, anything they can possibly think of. Eventually, they would find this special type of metal or a substance known as adamantium. This would be embedded in his entire body throughout his entire life. beginning to emerge, or basically merge with his skeletal structure, and on top of that giving him the Wolverine claws that they so sought after. Of course, Izuku would be in extreme agony. They would have to subdue him, put him under, and basically place him under stasis for such a long time, for years. Years would pass on. He would go from the age of about 8 to 9 to 10 to 12 to 15 years old super fast. The fact that this pain was almost unbearable for a teenager made sense. But soon his body would adapt, would change, and would eventually overcome the pain that he currently feels. He would begin his training, the training that would make him and mold him into a weapon of ultimate destruction. But during this training, he began to pick up on things. They wanted to keep Izuku Midoriya as down in terms of intelligence as possible. Controlling a wild beast was far easier than controlling an intelligent one. So they tried to keep him down, but there were mothers and fathers and many other people that were currently there that were helping Izuku and helping many others that were there as well. Izuku didn't really speak with any of these other test subjects, but he would find out that they do exist from people that are currently there. Izuku would build his knowledge slowly but surely, but he would still be a rash and, quick to the trigger type of person. He would be more on the side of this animalistic type of person, but he would make sure to maintain that as much as possible while he learns what's happening on the outside and what's happening in general. Izuku would begin to pick up on certain cues, certain things in general, and he would realize certain things that were not right, or that were wrong, and what was happening inside and out of everything going on. He would eventually learn of the kids that were also being experimented on, the experiments that he went through all these years, and the nightmares that he still has, glimpses of his mother being stripped away, and on top of that, many other things that terrify him during the night. There's something that's boiling within Izuku. Izuku keeps getting mentioned to as the Wolverine, or codename Project Wolverine, as if he is some sort of monster. A monster that used to prowl the earth, that used to tear people apart and eat them alive. The Wolverine was a monstrous creature back in the day, and it was, territorial at that. Izuku felt as if he was, exactly that, a monster, a project. So maybe he wanted to do something good for once, for one time. Well, he'll get that chance. And that chance would open up when he would see a door nearby that had a small hole in it. He would look through it to see that there was more and more doors, and he could hear the voices of other kids wanting to get out. It's as if he could feel their pain. In a matter of seconds, he would turn, slicing through two of the guards that were next to him, smashing through the door. He would cut loose all of these doors as they would open up. Various children that have powers that are similar to his, or might be so drastically different that they seemed as if they were quirks themselves, but they weren't. They were different than just quirks, far more powerful, a mutation that was beyond just a regular quirk, a mutation that has been developed using a serum and various other things within these children to make sure that the evolution of quirks in the near future, in the next 100 years or so, they can be maintained. But these children were being tortured. They were being put under immense stress and pressure, so Izuku was able to get them out. And as they all ran out and left, multiples of these so-called pseudo-parents would basically help them leave. The nurses, the nurses all alike, the doctors, nurses, and stuff like that, would help them get away. And eventually they would leave, but Izuku would be caught. He would feel this immense electricity flow through his head as if he was getting stunned to the ground. He'd be dragged away and he would try to get out, but he couldn't. There was no way for him to leave. But at least he would know that they escaped properly. But he would soon forget all about that. He would only see nightmares of these children that existed, and during this time, he would ask about it, and they would say that there is no such thing that exists. He's the only one that's here, and beginning to basically be controlled by these dreams. These dreams alone were basically being denounced as fake to Izuku, but Izuku for some reason felt like they could be real. But nonetheless, he couldn't do anything about it, and they began to treat Izuku literally like basically a tamed animal. They began shock therapy and many other things as well, putting a headset on Izuku, enabling this electrotherapy that would control him overall. But what they wouldn't believe would eventually happen is Izuku would disappear. Not on his own fruition and not on his own will. Izuku did not escape. Someone swooped him up. Immediately, they would all be freaking out, wondering where their masterpiece went, basically worrying that if this person, if Izuku was put into the wrong hands, if code project name Wolverine was in the wrong hands, everything could go downhill and everything could crumble. And what they didn't realize is that's exactly what was going to happen. Izuku was exactly in the wrong hands, in the hands of somebody that many knew as the most terrifying villain in Japan, maybe even in the entire world. Someone, a villain, that their reach extended all across the globe, and his name was All For One, a direct antagonist to All Might himself and whatever All Might stands for. All For One has captured Izuku, taking him away to the scientist lab, and they begin to actually continue experiments on his body and on Izuku's mind. Soon, his mind would open up. It would eventually show many dreams and thoughts and things that Izuku has done so far, and All For One is pretty surprised. It seems like this kid was raised to be animalistic, raised to be controlled easily, but he wasn't controlled easily. It seems as if he was slowly but surely molding his own brain into something that could counteract the animalistic nature that they were embedding in his brain. Soon the experiments on Izuku would take its toll, and obviously All For One would begin to reveal himself as someone that is in a good place of standing with Izuku, making it seem as if Izuku and All For One share some sort of family tie, maybe a father and son type of mantra. Not so sure to the extent, or Izuku won't be sure to the extent, but that is what is being revealed. Izuku would eventually be introduced into the League of Villains. He's not really in his own mind, he's been transferred into someone far different, and it was far easier to do it in the regard of Izuku than actually Kurogiri, for the fact that, well, Kurogiri has his own, let's just say, past and future. Kurogiri already went through so much in general that it was so difficult to actually make his mind bend to where they wanted it. Izuku's mind was kind of like a blank slate. It was already enough for them to bend and change, but it actually didn't take as long, and they didn't spend as much time, nowhere near as much time, actually bending his mind. After all of this was said and done, he was now finally, well, a piece of Shigaraki's team, a piece of the LOV, and this would be perfect, because soon there was something that was just in reach. An invasion on the USJ was something that they really, really wanted to fulfill, something that they felt needed to be fulfilled. The death of All Might, the symbol of peace, the number one hero. That is who they wanted to kill. That is who they wanted to eliminate. So their next steps would be just that. They'd be headed over to the USJ in a plan of more or less attacking the USJ and everybody that's present, including All Might, or at least that's who they thought would be there at that time. They would get ready, him or Izuku, Kurogiri, Anomu, Shigaraki, and many other villains that were ready to sacrifice their lives in the name of All for One, and the death of all these other heroes would then be ready for their attack on the USJ. The time would come and the portals would open. They would basically scramble the radio system so that nobody could get in or get out, or be basically allowed to signal anything out of the USJ. And when they arrive, Izuku would show up in an outfit that was found when All for One found him. It was an odd one that had yellow all over it, but at the same time had yellow, black, blue, and it seemed to fit very similar to, well, an animal of some sorts, a prehistoric animal of some sorts. He would be wearing this odd coloring of a Wolverine. It seemed as if it matched kind of a weird color scheme of some Wolverines that were out there in the past, in prehistoric times. And he would appear through a portal, staring out into what his mission was known as. He would be told by All for One that his mission was to protect Shigaraki and to eliminate All Might. That's what he needed to do, and that's what his goal was. All for One realized something, that Izuku was powerful. His strength was beyond anything he's really ever seen in his life. His skeletal structure was even different than that of humans. It was as if he was the epitome of what a Quark could be hundreds of years down the line. He knew that he would be perfect for this job. Izuku would wait, and he would protect Shigaraki as well. He watched as the other villains would fall victim to Aizawa or Eraserhead. Eraserhead would absolutely destroy everyone there, but as he got to, well, the Wolverine or Izuku Midoriya, that fight was far different. He tried to cancel the quirk of Izuku, but there was no quirk to cancel. Izuku would show off his adamantium claws as he walks forward with a growl or a scowl on his face. He began to feel animalistic as he charges toward Aizawa and immediately plunges his claws into the side of Aizawa, being barely able to dodge, just centimeters away from a crucial and, well, life-ending blow. Izuku would toss him toward the wall as he slams into it, bleeding like crazy. Izuku would put his claws back within his hands, and he would go back to protecting Shigaraki. Shigaraki would tell him that he could finish him off, but he tells Shigaraki that that is not his job detail. His detail is to protect him and end the life of All Might. That is his detail. Immediately as All Might arrives, Izuku would extract his claws once again, and Shigaraki would tell him that he guesses that it's time for him to do his job and follow the mission like a good soldier. As Izuku hears this, he sees flashes of different scenarios. He sees flashes of different things that he's seen and gone throughout this time. He sees that military base that was experimenting on him, and on top of that, he sees various different things. He sees all of the people that he saved or cut loose, and he hears the military people and scientists talking about him being a perfect soldier, a warrior, a monster, an animalistic creature that basically follows the lines of old human animalistic ideals, but also has the technology and strength built within him as if he has a quirk in the society that they live in now. A perfect creature, a perfect soldier. That's exactly what he is. Flashes of seeing this and hearing this begin to bring back memories he couldn't remember, but at the same time they would get pushed back to the back of his head once again as his claws would basically extract further out of his hands. All Might would come charging in, and immediately they would go blow for blow. All Might obviously having to dodge the claws, these adamantium claws, basically because any blow would be crucial and brutal, as he would get struck in the legs and the arms here and there. All Might would still be able to relatively keep up with the speed, but every blow that the Wolverine or Izuku would take, it seems to be regenerated and shrugged off, as All Might felt that maybe, just maybe, he could get some sort of advantage using the quirks and specialties of these other kids that are around that may be able to help, like Shoto Todoroki, Katsuki Bakugo, and many others. Just as he thought that might give him an advantage, he was wrong, because a Nomu, a monstrous creature that had regenerative powers and that was built to kill All Might, is also here. Who is this other person? This monstrous creature and this other Wolverine-like guy? This guy, he's like an animal. They're both like animalistic creatures that have no minds at all. All Might would try to fight them off, and of course, anybody else that's still up and ready to go tries to help as well. But at the end of the day, All Might would be drained entirely. He would be on the floor, gasping for air, and even the people, the kids there would see All Might in his Small Might form. They would be in shock. This would immediately have everybody, all the kids and everybody alike, would help out, would try to help and protect All Might, at least until the others get here, at least until Tenya comes back with reinforcements. And luckily, since everyone stepped up and everyone basically put their lives on the line, the reinforcements eventually came. Those reinforcements would force the villains to slightly scramble, because they would injure Shigaraki brutally at that, with multiple bullets in his legs and arms. But they would also do the same to Izuku, shooting him like crazy. But Izuku has one mission, and that mission is to kill All Might. They begin to retreat, and portals begin to form to get him out of there, but Izuku would dive toward All Might and slice into his chest, killing him. Izuku would end the life of All Might, and as he does this, many heroes would begin striking toward him. Every hero that's there tries to push him off of All Might in hopes that they can get to him to hopefully save his life. But there is no saving his life. The blades cut too deep, cut too within, and on impact, the life of All Might was taken away from him. Izuku was gone within a portal, including the Nomu. So there was no information they possibly could give, and there was no information they possibly could get. And let's just say the villains, bar none, have won this time. The villains did exactly what they wanted. They ended All Might's life, and Izuku was the perfect soldier to do so. Izuku would get back to the League of Villains base while Shigaraki begins to heal up. He would get his compliments, his flowers, of course. All for One would tell him that he did a hell of a job, an amazing job. He ended All Might's, and he even accelerated the plans further past that he could possibly imagine. Now that the word will get around that All Might has been slain, and that some monstrous creature, some animalistic soldier did it, is something that is going to bring them down. All for One knows exactly where Izuku comes from, and the fact that he comes from a military within Japan, and on top of that, there was association with the hero agent, or with basically hero society within that. That's something that will be outspoken and sent around. The word of Izuku, of what he is and what he became, will spread like wildfire. But what about those other children, some even near the age, maybe even older than Izuku, that have powers as well? Powers that are supposed to be stronger than quirks. All for One begins to think about this, begins to think about how strong these mutant genes really are, And if he got all the rest of them, how strong could they truly be? A quirk is simple maybe, but this mutant gene is as if it's a quirk, but it's accelerated for hundreds of years. Now if he got all of them, every last experiment, he could truly accelerate the process of becoming the ultimate being, can truly accelerate the process of being on top, controlling everything. He never knew this would be possible. He never knew that even the military would guide him in this direction. He never knew that simple beings like them, simple humans that think so small, so minuscule, would come up with such a major component in this game that he's currently playing. The chess pieces are all on the board. He has multiple steps ahead of the heroes. Now the heroes will be on the back foot. Now the heroes will need to figure out their next course of action, because frankly, they might not have any. They might not even have a chance in this war. They now accelerated everything and now have put themselves in a position of ultimate domination. All for One would smile at what's ahead of him and would smile at the fact that he has something even stronger than just a Nomu, even stronger than what Kurogiri became, a more perfected Nomu. He has a perfect type of Nomu, a perfect soldier, Izuku Midoriya, Wolverine. Project Wolverine has now become Project Takeover, the takeover for all villains that work for All for One, for all villains that want to be free and want to do whatever they want. And All for One will be at the head of it all. All for One, the League of Villains, and everyone else that decides not to follow will fall in his wake. And that is a wrap for part 1 of What If Deku Was Wolverine. And you might be thinking, this is a little bit different than you thought this was going to go. And of course, I wanted to try something a little different. And I think this was an interesting way of basically putting Wolverine, or making Deku Wolverine in My Hero Academia, because frankly, the hero route is kind of overdone, and the experimentation, I really like that idea, so I decided to do it that way, with some aspects of the Logan movie, as you guys can probably tell. With that said, I hope y'all enjoy, and I hope y'all enjoy this series. Make sure to show some love. If you do, make sure just hit the like, hit the sub, hit the comment down below, do all that good stuff. Helps the algorithm, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.